All right. Time for another long time, no time fragrance review. Whatever. Again, I lost my smell from COVID. It's been about a year and a half before I actually feel comfortable kind of doing reviews again. Hopefully, the microphone doesn't cut out too much. And again, no webcam for the time being because it just doesn't work on the new computer. Whatever. So let's do Frapin's 1270 versus 1270 Extreme. I feel like Frapin is kind of like a cult classic almost, if you will, in the fragrance community. That they have a couple of popular fragrances, generally, 1270 and Luministe, but even though they have this kind of, like frag community popularity, they just never really caught on to the masses. And I've always said that I felt like that is because when they were starting to get talk, a lot of reviewers at the time, I remember on the internet, were saying that they were getting leaky bottles and everything like that. And I wonder if that's something that maybe the commu or that the company might even look back on now, especially when you think about how Fragcom exploded with things like Aventus and all this kind of shit, on the internet, and that Frapin was getting good reviews for things like 1270 and Luminis, but so many people were getting fucked up bottles that were leaking and everything like that. And I wonder if it's just a stigma that is just they've just never been able to recover. Personally, I've only liked a couple of their fragrances anyway, but I do wonder about that sometimes. But I digress, right? So anyway, let's do a 1270 versus 1270 Extreme. So for the original 1270, the image I get in my head is imagine this sort of orange, ambered, honey-colored crystal ball, whatever it might be, right? And it's holding a bunch of like yummy notes, right? Yummy notes of dried fruits, different spices, all that stuff, right? And to break open this little orange, amber, yummy ball, whatever, right? You put on some sort of like pineapple embers, little crystal sparkles that slowly melt that orange, ambery colored ball of honey. And then all these notes, they just sort of melt into this boozy mash of, again, dried fruits, honey, vanilla, cocoa, a little bit of nuttiness, a little bit of woodiness, a little bit smoky, just a little bit of warmth. You know what I mean? It's sensual, it's yummy, it's snuggly, right? I like it, right? My only qualm about this fragrance is that sometimes I actually get a butterscotch note out of it, which I don't give a fuck about butterscotch, right? So it doesn't do anything for me. But when I don't get the butterscotch note, sometimes I'm just like, man, this smells so fucking fantastic, right? So if I were to compare it though to the extreme, let's say the extreme is, again, let's take that orange, amber, honey colored ball with some, yummy notes in it, right? However, let's put that now inside of another ball. But this is a purple crystal candied ball, right? And to melt this one to get to the center, you put on a bunch of pineapple, whatever, just a bunch of juice, cola, whatever it is, right? You need more than just some warm embers or little sparkles of pineapples. You need like a straight up drink to try to melt this ball. But you just can't melt this purple candied ball completely. And it's just like kind of bouncing on that, drink, I guess, in the drinky sea of purple, whatever. This is definitely a fragrance when I smell it. Sometimes a fragrance when you think of a color when you smell it. Smelling this, I definitely think of the color purple. And, when I think of the color of, Frapin, I definitely think of like a more dark orange red sort of color, right? Like I feel like they probably, because I feel like the bottles are kind of similar, right? That I recall. For this, they probably could have done like maybe a gradient bottle for this, 1270 Extreme, like purple to the orangish reddish. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, but whatever the case, it's just bouncing in this little drink of purple sea, whatever, and you can never quite melt this purple candied ball. You know what I mean? So you only just get a little whispers and wafts of the original Frapin 1270, right? So anyway, overall, the original is more boozy, while the extreme is more like a juicy drink. Some people have even said it's kind of like a cola. I do think cola is a little bit strong, but for comparison's sakes, let's say the original is a boozy fragrance. This is a cola fragrance. Again, quotation marks. That's kind of extreme for me, but let's go with it, right? The original is more sensual, it's more warm, it's more yummy, while the extreme is more kind of candied fresh and floral, right? I do think that the original is more of a vibe fragrance as well, as it does smell kind of older, if you will, and the extreme smells more youthful, in comparison, right? So saying that though, no doubt when I have tried the extreme that instantly I'm reminded of the original. But if you actually try them side by side, they're not redundant whatsoever, I think, and they do actually differ. But, just by off passing, smelling the extreme, I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of reminds me of the original. But put them both side by side, again, excuse me, not redundant, you know what I mean? They do differ, a fair amount, right? Personally, for me, I actually like the original more because besides sometimes when I get that butterscotch thing that I don't care about, just in general, I like yummy fragrances. I like those kind of yummy, sensual, kind of snuggly kind of smells, right? You know, whereas if I was going for compliments, I guess I might go for the extreme because it is stronger. It does smell more youthful. It's more fresh. It's more candied, you know. So I guess maybe, take that with the grain of salt. I guess if I was just going out, again, the extreme, it's stronger, it's fresher, it's more candy-like floral. It seems a little bit more pleasing, where again, the original's more kind of has a little bit of a vibe. It sits closer to the skin. It's more, kind of a personal kind of bubble, I guess a date night for lack of a better word, maybe, right? But I enjoy that myself, so that is what I like. Anyway, remember if you like the videos, like, sub, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. The end.